Good morning, this is Mr. Barr. I wanted to do a fireside chat with you in the spirit of FDR about the legacy of the New Deal. I want to specifically focus on the impact that the New Deal had on our country because we're still feeling those effects today. We've talked about in class a couple of times that the biggest thing that the New Deal did was it changed the role of government. If you look at our society before the New Deal, we had laissez-faire economics. We had government hands off. The government stayed out of the affairs of business. Business wasn't regulated, wasn't really controlled. We had, federal laws that dictated how many hours a week you could work. We had the age you could work. We didn't want kids working, stuff like that. We did have some stuff. But the thing you have to understand is business, for the most part, wasn't regulated. The government stayed out of it, and that's what the people wanted, all right? But because of the Great Depression in 1932 and the New Deal, all that changed. Now, post-New Deal, we have 150 new programs, minimum, probably more than that, really. They just weren't created at the end of the New Deal yet. They would come later, but they're a result of the New Deal. We have unemployment insurance now, so if you lose your job, you get a check from the government. Social Security, so if you're retired, you get a check from the government. We fundamentally changed what people expect of government. Before the New Deal, communities took care of it. Communities took care of the poor. They just expected, that was the expectation. The community people, the church people would gather together and they would just take care of the poor. That's just the way it worked. Now, no, the government needs to do that because people can't do it on their own. Thomas Jefferson once said that a government that governs best governs least. Think about that. The founding fathers back in the 1790s when they were drafting the Constitution were even concerned about these massive government bureaucracies, and they didn't think it was good for the country. FDR certainly disagreed. We're still feeling the effects of the New Deal today. FDR engaged in deficit spending. He borrowed money to pay for programs. We didn't have the money for this. He borrowed the money and paid it back later. We're still feeling that effect today. We're $21 trillion in debt. That's not FDR's fault. That's the fault of lots of other people and lots of other things. It's a bit complicated. But actually, it's not that complicated, but I don't want to take the time. But anyway, FDR created the scenario in which our presidents can actually do that. And that's the thing that he did that probably changed the country more than anything. Deficit spending gets underrated. So my question to you is, was it worth it? Was it worth it? Yes, we were engaged in the worst economic downturn in our nation's history. People were in Chicago starving for bread. People were in bread lines in the United States of America. You can argue, hey, he had no choice. You can also argue it doesn't matter. There's a line, and he crossed that line because now we can't go back. The New Deal created jobs. It lowered unemployment. It was very effective. But my question is, was it worth it? Was all of this legacy of changing the perspective of people, changing the expectations of the American people when it came to government, was it worth it? I'll leave it up to you. Have a good day.